Hello. So, kind of been focused elsewhere. I kind of get the idea that this isn't exactly what I'm meant to be doing right now. Not this specifically this reading, right? I mean, just generally putting a lot of energy into my YouTube channel and building up this library which I have of oracle readings. I feel like what I've done is that's it. Like my wisdoms have been shared here on this channel, and especially in the choose your own adventure reading. If you haven't looked at it, check it out. It's 9 hours long, but basically, you're just choosing readings throughout to go through, and you can let it go on for as long as you want. You can revisit it. You could even listen to it straight through, right? As a bedtime kind of comfort or whatever. But yeah, so I enjoy doing this, but I just get this feeling like I am sort of going to be doing something else. Not that this was a waste of time, focusing on healing was necessary for me to get to know myself, to retrieve lost parts of myself that I had disowned, suppressed, denied, in order to really come into my body. Even I was dissociating as a way of coping, so it was just like a walking zombie. Really, that's what I was before I started doing healing, and one thing about that is I advocate for this process that I've gone through for anyone who's struggling, right? Because dedicating my life to my healing process saved my life. And there were certain spiritual concepts, teachers, nuggets of wisdoms that were kind of fed to me through my curiosity and the guidance that I was receiving. I was often fed through my curiosity, right? That's what led me to the key pieces of information I needed. Also, inner urge. It's like, go here, talk to this person, And then all of a sudden it would be like, oh, I see what you needed me to see in that experience. And so I love that I've gone through this process. And I probably wouldn't have thought this was the case a month ago, that I wasn't always just going to be this, this person who is able to heal. I thought, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm just a healer. I can help assist people to heal. It's like, well, I am really good at this, but I'm good at some other stuff too. And I kind of need to it's like switching from this track to another track, right? And it doesn't mean that what I have learned about myself won't be just as useful in going forward. It's just that there's more to it for me and what I wanted to accomplish here. But I'm really thankful for all the nuggets of wisdom, right? All the helpers, the earth angels, those spiritualists that came before me and shared their information just the way I have shared with you. Because I could not have gotten here without that, And basically what I've come to is this place where I'm like, okay, now that I'm on Earth, I always knew for years now, I thought, if I were to live my ideal life, it's not being a healer. It's not healing people, because my ideal life doesn't create a world where people need me to heal them. You know what I mean? My ideal version of life is that we're each sovereign, that we are not like vampires feeding off each other's energy and needing from each other what we think we lack in ourselves. Maybe we would be interdependent, meaning we would work together on projects that we've recognized that each of us has a different view, different perspective, a different specialty. And, I love that concept. I love the idea of collaboration, with others who are sovereign, not because we are feeding off each other, climbing to the top for some sort of power, but that we each understand that our power is in navigating ourselves, knowing ourselves, and making the space for ourselves to be in the world in a way that makes sense to us, that is fulfilling for us, that is contributing to the society as a whole. But not because society as a whole is dependent on us or needs us to lead them or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that. And also, all this is really is that I borrowed, I want to say I borrowed, but like, I don't know if that's exactly the right word, but I borrowed a stream of consciousness in order to like tunnel myself out from the hell realms, from the densities, right? But like, that's just one stream of consciousness, because all the while, I have a bigger awareness than the consciousness that I took. The road that I took was just like a focus on this road kind of thing. But there was all kinds of other things, right? So it's very easy to get distracted on the path, right? And by things they don't seem useless or like they're bad to get involved in or anything like that. If your curiosity leads you on like what could be equated to like a side quest, then okay, it's probably going to be useful for you. But like, I had some side quests, and also there was also this burning for like being off the path that I was on, knowing I needed to be on the path that I was on, continuing on it, but also like knowing that my consciousness wanted to follow that stream and that stream and that stream, and oh, I love this concept, and let me like dive into this a little bit more and look at it from different angles and things like that, And one of those concepts or understandings is that, we're creating our own reality. So if I created this reality for myself, it's like, well, then it's kind of like removing the consciousness to look at that and say, oh, well, why did I create a reality where I needed to tunnel my way out of a density, of a dark place, of a mud pit? Why did I do that? What am I trying to learn? And just like letting my consciousness kind of float into the places where I'm taking more full responsibility for this as my creation. And so that includes things like, the so-called bad guys that I see in the world. Like, I created that. So why did I? What in it needs to be kind of integrated into me, where I won't see that in the world unless it's in me, right? And we all know, if you've been watching my channel, that I grew up kind of rough, right? Like, that's another creation of mine, right? Like, I created the situation where I would grow up that way. But like, as a result, there's some bad guys in my consciousness, in my psyche, right? And it's like, well, where else would I see them, right? I don't want to be the bad guy, so I got to see them outside of me. So that is my creation, and it is being reflected back to me. And so I can even change that, you know what I mean? So I've been working on things like that, just kind of taking my consciousness out a little bit further than what my tunnel vision was allowing me to do in order to get my work done, right? Like, I needed to get out of the densities and the patterns and the loops that were kind of gripping me so much, because I needed to loosen up my consciousness and awareness, expand my awareness enough to see more possibilities. And it's a different kind of thing, right? Because it's like, well, I feel like as long as I've come up to this awareness through my own dissection of the shadow, then I come up to this place of being aware with enough compassion for what's in my reality that I'm able to live a very peaceful, kind of calm existence now, you know? But I worked for that, and I didn't start that in my creation. My creation was like this war, really, I was born into. And then like the process of of becoming peace And, you know, I'm not claiming to be perfect, and I'm not saying that I never have an ill thought about another person or never have some sort of judgment float through my awareness, you know, but I don't latch on to them. You know, I recognize them for what they are, and I don't get pleasure from trying to put myself on a hierarchy, you know. If, like, say for instance, I have become aware of a program that's running in somebody else, I've noticed lately that I'm finally at this nice place where I just go, oh, they have a program, I see it. And if I see that program in them, you know, that's reflecting back to me that I see my own programs too. I'm a person that can see programs. So, of course, I'm going to see them outside of me as well as in me, because that's my creation. My creation is always reflecting back to me, right? So when I start noticing more my own connection with myself and my body and my creation, that's when I get to live out more connected experiences with others outside of myself. And that's something I'm just getting to venture into, right? So, and I had a talk with somebody who was on this spiritual path or whatever, right? And one of the interesting things that she mentioned, which I had, you know, I had a tough time grappling with it. I don't even know what I'm going to say about it right now, but I'm just going to say. She mentioned that the goal was to get to the 5D from the 3D. So the 3D is where we're experiencing time within our creation, within the veil. Like, we're not really fully aware of the whole thing, right? And then fourth dimension is where we are doing the creating. We're having our manifestations show up instantly because now we're not in the barrier of time. And then fifth dimension, the way she described fifth dimension, is just being with no preferences and no worries and all that stuff. And like, I would agree that we're not in the fifth dimension worrying, but it kind of pushed me back when she said that there's no preference, that in the fifth dimension we don't have a preference. And I get that we have an awareness in the fifth dimension of all the options, right? But I feel like we can still have a neutrality on understanding all the options while having a preference. I know that what she means is that there's just like an acceptance and a willingness to be with all that is, right? Because that's what we're doing to our 3D parts, is pulling them up to that space where they are in acceptance. So I understand what she's saying, but like, I have this little grappling, you know, thing with like letting go of preference. Like, I don't want to let go of preference. And so what I'm going to say is, like, there's still something that I'm playing with in my reality and my creation of preference. So we'll see what that is with what I choose to put my focus on going forward. Lately, it's just been still doing downsizing of my belongings. I'm still I've been playing around with and experimenting with different ways of getting fit with not a lot of success at the moment, but some days are better than others. And a lot of frustration, you know. That's a preference. Oh, shit. Yes, that's a preference. I prefer to be fit and not fat. And so I'm pushing against being fat. But like, I have done a lot of work to try to be in acceptance of my body as it is. It's very difficult in this society. Like, it really is. Well, first of all, I can't wear the fashion that I want to wear. It's harder to move around when I'm heavier, right? But like, at the same time, it's very frustrating because it's like, I'm not like doing anything that would warrant my body to do this, like in my mind, I'm not. So whatever, we will continue to work on that. That's where I'm at on that. But the reading I wanted to do, I just wanted to do a quick one, maybe like a couple cards for each pile, 1 through 3, piles 1 through 3. And the, interesting. My throat chakra is like, oh, we rarely talked about that. And what this deck is my fair relating reflection deck. And so the reason why I created this deck is when we are transitioning from 3D up until 5D, if you want to call it that, if we're ascending, if we're letting our awareness expand, what we start to see is the need to be sovereign. We start to see, if this is my creation and I always expect that person to show up the way that I expect them to show up, then they always show up that way, because this is my creation. So we want to take back our projections. We want to allow ourselves to have experiences with people, and then take ourselves back from those experiences and be with ourselves, right? We don't get like tangled in and have our identity mean something based on that experience. We were always who we are, and we get to know who we are, and we get to have these experiences to enrich our lives. And so it's kind of just like being sovereign. And there is this old way of being which is not sovereign, which is coming from those dense places where there's expectations of people, and there's attachment to outcome, and there's lots of preferences. And lots of attempts to control and manipulate things in order to achieve our preferences. And, oh, interesting. That's why we're talking about this. Yeah. And okay. Here's my sticky point on preferences, right? It's like, it is difficult to let go of a preference, but it's not impossible, because I have let go of preferences on some things. As we discussed and discovered, I still have some preferences to work through, right? And so this particular deck focuses on letting go of preferences in relationship. And a wonderful concept that I came across, and it was in the teachings of Jason Estes, and I don't always agree with everything he says, but this was a wonderful thing that he had to add, which was, he mentioned that attachment, expectations, and things, it's replaced with agreements, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't be in relationship with someone and trust that they are going to be loyal to you or monogamous and things like that, because those are agreements. Like, I agree to be in this situation or this relationship with you based on this premise that we are going to be monogamous with each other, right? And you look at it like it's an agreement, and not like you're holding them, pinning them to the wall to that. No, you're just saying, like, here's this space that we made. Like, I'm going to step into that space because I agree to be that way. If you come and agree to be that way, you'll step into that space too. We agree. We're both here by our own free will. We are sovereign beings making this decision. You know? I'm not manipulating you, trying to fool you into it, trying to convince you that you should, all the other crap kind of falls away. And that crap is just kind of remnants of that old way of relating. And one of the examples that I can see from the old way of relating, like a remnant of punishment and reward parenting, is that need to always decide if someone's right or wrong, and assert our preference over them. And there's lots of other little remnants to that cycle, but it can actually be a very hidden program in you, where you're just going through life looking at whether somebody should be punished or rewarded. Punished or rewarded, because that's what your parents showed you, And then you grow up and you're an adult, and you're going through life, and everybody that you pass on the street, you're judging them by something very superficial, what they're wearing, probably, in a lot of cases. Just an example. And it's like, punished or rewarded, punished with my judgment, like, ugh, what were they thinking wearing that? That doesn't go together. That looks gross on them. It's too tight. or reward. Oh, look at them. I should compliment their outfit. It's like as if that person needs any feedback from you about what their expression is. You know? It's like very arrogant to interject our thoughts uninvited about somebody else's appearance, because our physical bodies are an expression of our creation. You know, it's like, oh, you created something that makes me feel a way, a yucky way. You know, it's like, well, why are you telling them that? Deal with it within yourself. They just gave you a gift. Now you know there's something that's holding you into the 3D. So if your aim is to be released from that, then you have received an indication of where you can look. And same thing goes for any of feeling we're avoiding, anything we're projecting onto others. All of it can come right back in here. We can stop projecting. So these cards, I designed them to help with that transition period from the old way of relating to the new way. Because eventually you come to the point where it's natural. You're already embodied in these concepts because you have dealt with yourself on all those things that were pointed out to you and freed yourself from the stickiness of expectation and needing them to be a certain way, needing it to come out a certain way. And the reason why we want to do this in the first place is because we don't always know what's best for us, right? Like there is a flow state. There's like this place where we can get into the flow. We lose track of time, and it's God's will. And this curiosity can lead us, this inner urge can lead us through this flow. And it's like when we're in the flow, things are falling into place. Like we're just getting to where we need to go, and we know it's where we need it to go because we have faith. It's hard to not have faith when you start to see everything falling into place and you start to be shown the reasons for everything. Like, oh, I mean, here's a simple example, but like, it's like, oh, I got the urge to take this other turn and go home this other way. And then you look on the news and there was like a car accident or something. And then there was like long traffic for hours. You know, and it's like you got diverted because you were in the flow. And there might be a part of you that's like, well, why do all those other people have to suffer? Well, maybe they didn't, but they ended up suffering because they weren't in the flow state to hear their inner urge, to hear their intuition. So they're learning something else from the situation. Maybe it's patience, you know? Like nothing's for nothing. It can all be used for the good. And I want to say that another thing that came kind of to my awareness even stronger is like even the difficulties and the challenges where I've thought, oh, that person had this potential and they could have gone another way and made another decision and their life would have been much different. Because I have had a situation like that, a specific one I'm thinking of with a person, a soulmate. And for a long time, I just kept thinking, oh, why won't he just get on board with his flow? Like, why won't he take the initiative to follow God and things like that? And then one day I was just shown like, well, there's something to be gained from the stance that he's taken. Like, if he refuses to listen to God and drives himself into the ground and makes himself go through all kinds of extra, we'll call them traffic jams, he's learned a lot. And he's learned a lot about his free will. He's learned a lot about the perspective that you have when you're sitting there in that car waiting for hours. And that maybe now you're noticing your neighbors and you're like, oh, wow, look at the nice decoration. They really take pride in their home. Or oh, look at this person. I think they could use some help mowing their lawn. Or, whatever perspective they gain from that experience is valuable to them. So it's not for us to judge other people and their path, because God's got it. If you don't want to call it God, call it universe, source, whatever's divinely orchestrating this, I'm just shuffling, and we're going to get into pick one. And the question we're asking is, how can you add fair relating to this relationship? How can you add fair relating? So these concepts of not kind of trying to control, manipulate, or coerce, but like get to the place where you can be more neutral. You can ask yourself, what would love do? Right? So the reason why we ask ourselves this question is, and when we're asking the question, we're putting ourselves in the third person, kind of, because we might not have an open heart in that moment on that topic. And if we imagine that we are love, or that the answer comes through love, we can imagine what would love do, and then it can help us make a decision. You know, does love act in fear? Does love hold back? Does love run away? Does love try to hide certain aspects of itself? Be still and listen. When we do this, there might be like things that come up. And this is where that formula that I've taught on a lot of my videos can be helpful if you need to. I'm not saying you should. You'll know best. If it feels appropriate, then you can acknowledge, validate, accept, and be present with whatever comes up while you're being still and listening, right? The purpose of listening might be to do that. Like, because if you have a lot of backlog of stuff that hasn't been processed through appropriately yet, because you could run yourself in circles with thoughts and never make any progress. But if you are able to make progress, and the purpose of your being still is to do so, then you could help yourself clear up some of the backlog by taking the time to do that. You know, even if you say, all right, I'm going to do this meditation, the first 5 minutes I'm going to do the formula, and then I'm just going to watch for a while, you know? Because whatever you do, it can take some days to integrate and see the changes in your reality. 3 days, up to 3 days. I think it's happening faster now, actually. Allow the experience to impress upon you instead of impressing your will. Okay? So try not to think of what it is you want, your preference, or what you think is supposed to happen, right? And just have the experience, and then just like, all right, what does it make you think? What is it? Now, observing yourself, answering the question, what does it make you think? What does it make you feel? What kind of urges come up in you? And that's the accurate information, because you're getting your ego out of the way. Your ego wants to impress its will. Yeah. Okay? And pick two. Oh my goodness. You got what would love do also. So this card is a way of getting an answer when your heart isn't all the way open. You ask yourself, what would love do? So this assures that you're not acting from fear, that you are sort of like taking the high road. And love considers all things, right? Me, you, us, them, all. Sometimes it's easier to love from a distance. Okay, pick two. So what would love do? Would love give some space to the situation? Would love stop trying to fix it when it's not in alignment or incompatible? Would love respect yourself and know what your boundaries are and what you agree to and don't agree to? It's very difficult, I think, especially with a lot of programming around our responsibilities and how much sacrifice. The situation that's coming to mind is like I had a situation with my son years ago where I had to love him from a distance, even though I wanted to step in and save him and fix it all. I couldn't, because every time I tried, it was like this, he rebelled against it. There was something in him that wouldn't accept love for those years. And I'm so thankful that we've moved past that point, but like, those were valuable lessons for me because I learned what love really is, and that I could do it from a distance too. You know, that my prayers mattered, that my holding space mattered, that me showing him, you know, what I agreed to be treated like and what I agreed to treat him like mattered. It was all part of getting to the place where we are better. And sometimes we have to part ways with people that we love, and it's not about coming back together. Sometimes it's that we are blessed with somebody in our life for a time, and sometimes it's that we end up just learning a bunch of lessons with them. And sometimes we get to reflect when there's distance between me and that person. When there's distance between us and that person, we get to reflect on a lot more about it. You know, so sometimes people do leave our lives, and I think for me, this was a difficult one in my life. So I understand if that sounds harsh, or if there's part of you that says, no, I'll never give them up, I'll never leave, you know, or whatever it is. I get that. But eventually what I came to was like a surrender, a place of surrender where it's like, okay, well, God does know best. Like, I can't carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I actually do have something here I'm supposed to be doing. And if I distract myself by trying to do what they came to do, then I'm not going to do what I came to do. And then they are on their own timeline, not yours. Okay, pick two. So this is somebody who is not compatible with you at this time. Their whole outlook is a mismatch to your frequency. Your frequency, you'll butt heads, you'll miss each other, you'll trip each other. It will just keep happening because there's not an agreement here. There's no agreement, you know? And if there was an agreement, they're not showing up for it, or you haven't shown up for it. If the agreement was to take space, then show up for that agreement. You know what I mean? But they're on their own timeline, so they're not, it's never going to kind of come into the place where you may have preferred it to. And maybe this is just like a permission also for some people, where it's like, it's okay to let this go. It is hard. You may have to process some difficult feelings. Love yourself through them. Love them through them, you know, meaning from a distance, like a whole space. You're not like wishing them the worst or anything. It's just like understanding and respecting that they're on their path. When I talked in the beginning about my focused path, right? Like, there were people who didn't get it. Like, I still had to stay on my path. Imagine if I got off for every person that didn't get it. Imagine if I got off my path for every person who didn't get my path. I never would have got anywhere on my path. Imagine if they expected me to get off. I never would have made any progress. All right, I'm going to pause you, take this call. All right, we're moving on to pick three, but I should have taken that call on here because it was so cute. It was my granddaughter, and she said that she was ready to go shopping. She's 3, so it was cute. And I told her in 15 minutes I would leave here and that we would go. So, she's great. See, it makes me very happy that I'm going to be spending time with her, you know. All right, pick 3. Let's see. What does this deck have to say? Chores first. Shadow work first. All right. So what this card means is there's something you want to do that you're going to proceed to do, right? There's some action you're going to take. And this is saying first put your action into what is making it difficult for you to take the action, or to feel confident in the action, or to have clarity about the action you want to take. Those things point to shadows within yourself, fears, limitations, reasons why. They're in your subconscious, and it's kind of just saying, like, first acknowledge these things. Like, oh, I'm going to make this phone call. I'm going to call this person. Ooh, something's stopping me. What is that? Right? Okay, so here's exactly how you do it. You notice, you acknowledge, oh, something feels like I don't want to do it. Something feels, ooh. So you're acknowledging, I have a fear. I have a fear. Okay, and then you are validating, why am I scared? Why am I scared? Well, I don't want to be yelled at. I don't want to be rejected, whatever it may be. So once you've acknowledged it, you accept that this is the case. All right, I have a fear of being rejected. I know why. Because it really hurt last time I was rejected, or I don't like it when somebody tells me that I'm wrong, So these are the feelings that you got to be present with. You're like, okay, if this person tells me that I'm wrong, how does that feel? Okay, it feels embarrassing. It feels like they don't respect me. It feels like I'm lesser. Okay, be present with those feelings. Be the one who's willing to be with those feelings. It's just a feeling. Doesn't mean it's the truth. But there is a reason that feeling is there, and it needs to be honored. And that's just an example, and you're going to go through that on anything that comes up that seems like a doubt or a fear associated with doing what you're going to do. So shadow work first. Yeah. Okay. Let it go. Accept how you feel in the surrender. So this is asking you to surrender something. It's saying, all right, you want this, you're bothered by this. This is a grudge you're holding on to. Let's use that as an example. You're holding on to this grudge. What if you just let it go? You say, all right, whatever, this person fucked me over. Now, when you're letting that go, there's going to be some feelings that come up. Can you accept those feelings in? I feel like a loser. I feel defeated. I feel embarrassed. I feel humiliated. I feel weak. I feel scared that someone else could do that to me. I feel lesser. I feel like I'm not important to that person. Be with all these feelings. So I feel like this card is just basically kind of another way to say what we were saying in the first card. Whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve here, it's kind of saying there's a bunch of shit in the way, but that's the gift. Like you want to do something, and that is the gift that you've been given, because now you can look at the map that it's laying out for you of all the things that are in the way. And that's your shadow work. That's where your work is. Because once you get rid of enough of this, or integrate enough of this, once you've loved yourself in enough of those scary ways to feel, there might still be some fear, and that fear would be of the unknown. All you have to know is that you've got your back. And the way you'll know that you have your back is because you just proved it to yourself. You just faced a bunch of uncomfortable feelings, and you showed up for yourself for each of them. So now you might have a chance of convincing yourself that you'll have your back, even if. And that will allow you to be brave, to go forward bravely. Okay? Because this is saying, like, it is going to take some bravery. But there's a lot more fear in the way than need be. Right? Your bravery is needed, but it's not going to get you past all those things, because the whole point of it is for you to be shown those things. You see? Yeah, some of our relationships in life are actually showing us these roadmaps to our healing. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful gift. And actually, I would kind of venture to say, since this is our creation, every relationship in our life is showing us that. You created this. It's being reflected back to you. Now, just be brave enough to look at it. Use the bravery to look at it. Wow. Okay. I gotta go. Gotta go. Shopping with my baby girl. Well, she's not my baby. I just love spending time with my granddaughter, so I get a little bit giddy and foolish, and I love it. All right, maybe see you soon. It was nice to kind of touch base, and may you all be well out there. Holding space for all of you. Kind of miss keeping in touch, but also, like, I'm okay with where things are, and I totally trust that you guys have it in you to take the steps that you need to take to get to where you're going.